This is the Hearthstone.fi Monday Night Community Tournament number 28. I am Markus Olodyn Koskivirta, and this is the first semi-final with Namcor from NV Esports from the Czech Republic versus Weasel from B Genius Esports from France. Both players are preparing to battle a friend, and we will join the match on Weasel's side of the board once it gets going. As said previously, both players have brought Warlock and Warrior, and the differentiating classes are Paladin for Weasel and Rogue for Namcor. Both players are playing a best of 5 conquest match, which means that they will have to win with each and every one of their decks. So a single win from all 3 decks is required. Previously in the tournament, the rounds have been best of 3.
Your soul shall be mine.
So the difference is pretty significant. I'll have to ask Namcor to invite me to spectate. And there we go. The whole hand mulligan, yep. This indicates to me that this is the mid-range zoo version with a bit heavier cards like Sylvanas included in the mix. Pretty good starting hand with the Void Walker. Hopefully he'll get something for the 2-mana slot, because if you have to coin out the Imp Gang boss, that's not optimal. Ah, there we go. Perfect curve. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the Implosion. And Namcor is running the Grim Patron Warrior, which has also become very common in this current meta. This double slam is an interesting deck tech choice, because the slam is usually considered a card that's not enough value in a patron deck because of the combo and its heavy impact on the other cards. What you would cut to include slam would probably be things like Commanding Shout. That would probably be taken out in favor of a slam, and these are just the small tech choices you make during the games. 1 mana Dread Corsair, not bad. You can also just hold on to your Fiery War Axe. There's no reason to pop the Haunted Creeper yet. You'd much rather have the Zulok run it into your Taunter, just so you can still have the Fiery War Axe to react to whatever may come from the opposing side of the board. That smallest possible implosion's pretty bad luck when it comes to RNG, but it's enough for him to also pop this Haunted Creeper in the 1/3, so he actually gets the board full of 1/1s. Now the downside here being that the Patron Warriors usually run a lot of Whirlwind effects. And by a lot, I mean a lot. Even the 1/3 Ghoul, which does Death Rattle 1 damage to everything, is in certain versions of the deck. And this board is very prone to get removed with a single Whirlwind effect. The good side is Defender of Argus will more than likely have good targets if these guys are not removed. And it looks like Namcor is just going to be passive with his turn, go hero power pass. And with this kind of hand, you're actually sort of forced to do that as well, because the Commander Patron combo is 8 mana, you don't have it, you don't have any targets for execute. The slams would just be removals on a 1/1, and that's definitely not something you want to do. Interestingly enough, he opts to not go for the Defender of Argus play. Maybe the reason behind that is the fact that he sees that the value for the Fire War Axe would then be increased. If he were to play this Defender of Argus down on the board, then these minions would become 2/2, and one of those charges from the Fire War Axe would actually get a pretty decent removal. So I sort of understand where it's coming from. This Taurisan also just a tad too expensive for this moment. If it were just 1 turn later, he would be perfect for this hand, but right now, he's still at the same spot where he was previously. None of these cards really do anything towards this board. You don't really want to waste the Grim Patron, because for all you know, the lock could even have things like Dark Bomb in his hand, and that would just be a completely wasted Grim Patron. You are at a situation where the hero power pass is once again pretty much the only option, unless you want to go slamming these 1/1s out. And it's really hard for you to make that call, because of the fact that you're wasting 3 mana and you're so behind on tempo that I find it unlikely that you'd ever be able to make a serious comeback from this. Not really, because the Zoo Warlock is so far ahead. You would need to have something like a Brawl or some sort of other AoE removal. If you were to top deck into that Whirlwind, it would be absolutely amazing, because you could proc this small Haunted Creeper with your weapon first and then go for the Whirlwind effect. So that's one of those reasons why I really think the Defender of Fargus would have also been a valid option here. Now the Thaurissan comes down without even a thought gone into it. It's very, very obvious that you should play the Thaurissan over the Acolyte of Pain onto a board like this. Lucky for Weasel, the Whirlwind effects have not been coming over, so they are still safe. And a Sea Giant at this stage, wow, the board is very, very flooded. Let's see, if he plays into the Nerubian Egg Defender of Fargus, he could get a 1-mana Sea Giant. So he wants to... No, actually his side of the board is at 6 minions. So if he wants to play the Sea Giant, he has to play it now. He's still left with 3 mana unused onto this board. Void Terror, you could in theory argue that you could get a nice 5/5 Void Terror, but you'd have to sacrifice your 1/1s for it. I like the Sea Giant play myself. Just ignore the Thaurissan for now. Yes, it can make some really, really awful combos from the opposing side of the board. Like 3+1, that's a 4-mana combo to Grim Patron. But if the Grim Patron combo were to come out right now, it would wreak havoc anyway, and this Sea Giant would pretty much stop all of them from being a giant menace. Alright, so he opts to go for the Thaurissan removal. I get it, it is high priority. You should do the removal when you can do the removal. This is a good call. And for the Nerubian Egg value later on. This Warsong Commander and a Grim Patron will be able to clear out these 3 minions here, plus the 2 minions spawned from the Haunted Creeper. So there will be a lot of patrons on the board. And not a whole lot of ways for this Zoolock to handle it right now. If he's decked or teched something like a Shadow Flame in there, then he could go for the Sea Giant attack into a Shadow Flame clear, or maybe even a Hellfire. Would be pretty nice. And just like that, the whole board is full of Green Patrons. Slam for just 1 mana into an Execute onto the Sea Giant. And the swing is real. Namcor has taken absolute control, so unless we see... Nope, the owl does nothing. Unless we see the AoE, Weasel is deciding that it's better to just give up right away. I understand and completely respect the decision. The swing there was just too much to bear. Yes, Jambedin, I am making Vectorama this year. We will be making a Counter-Strike Global Offensive tournament for $3,000 there. And we're back in action. Let's see if the other side of the player's hand actually shows. So Namcor opts to go for his Warlock, and I have insider information that it is indeed a Handlock. So this mid-range Zoo Warlock versus the Handlock is actually a very, very interesting matchup. Since there isn't really a lot of tools for Zoo to handle those 8/8 drops, I would actually call this in favor of Namcor in the current meta. Oh, nice. A Flame Imp start. That's pretty strong. So, what he would need to turn this around is very strong early aggression with wide board. If he's able to flood the board without the Handlock getting his AoE responses, then there's a chance that the Zoolock will be able to push past that 15 hit point wall where your basic Molten Giants become really, really valuable. And then just go with the power overwhelming and all other possible buffs to flood the board completely. And push that critical amount of damage through to the face. But it isn't looking too good for Weasel here. We see the Watcher Shadow Flame combo in Namcor's hand. I'm sorry. We see the Twilight Drake and the Mountain Giant. So turn 4 Mountain Giant is probably a reality. Or turn 5 actually. If we see the coin Twilight Drake come out on turn 3, that means he'll have the mana necessary to play whatever he needs from his hand on turn 4 for 2 mana and then tap. And then into a 3 mana Mountain Giant and a 2 mana Sun Fury Protector to give himself a very, very nice meat shield. Going for the Dark Bomb play means that he wants to play Mountain Giant on the upcoming turn number 4 instead of this Twilight Drake a little bit earlier. Yes, it does take off the pressure from the board somewhat. I do understand the choice. If he had not removed the 3-2, it would mean that he would be down to 15 this turn already, and he's got a 2-turn setup ahead of him. And the burst potential from a Zoo Warlock is so high that it's completely correct to actually try to negate some of that incoming damage. And that Void Terror combination with the Nerubian Activator is very, very strong. Weasel actually holds on to the lethal, and this is exactly what I was talking to you guys before. If the Zoo is able to push the advantage so far that he's able to clear the board and set up the situation in such a way that he's able to push down that last 15 hit point barrier in just one turn, it's going to be very, very good for them. So he's got 9 damage on board, he needs 5 more, and the Doom Guard from hand is exactly what's needed. So unless there's some way to clear out the 2-1s or the other minions, something like Mortal Coil, it's not going to happen. If he Shadow Flames just a 2-1, that's also not enough. And I think he's made the calculations, like Doom Guard is going to be lethal, I have to protect myself some way. And that's going to be the only viable option to stay alive. Now the thing here is, does Weasel go for the push still? Use the 3-3 to kill off the 2-1 and just push these 6 damage to the face? Or does he go the more conservative way of removing the 2-1 with the 2-1, using the 3-3 to clear the 2-3, and try and put more minions onto the board without pushing the handlock down to the range where he could play those Molten Giants for free? And I think this is the better option. Now the Sludge Belcher is a very strong top deck. It is very, very good. Weasel would need some sort of silence right now, even with the Doom Guard and the Abusive Sergeant buff. Let's see how much that is. That's 5, 2-4, clears out the Ant-Gang boss. You get the buff from the Sergeant, that's 9 damage to the face, because you have to clear out the Belcher and spawn 1-2 from it. So you don't want to do that yet either. And the Void Caller into Haunted Creeper, that makes sense. The Abusive Sergeant into the 3-1 means that he wants to clear the Sludge Belcher with this Void Terror. And then drop those other minions onto the board as well. The Void Killer is a good call because if the AoE Shadow Flame comes down from Namcor, you're guaranteed to get the Doom Guard at least onto the board. I personally would risk it. I would go for the Nerubian attack right now. Because of the fact that, oh, wow. Okay, so I would have been wrong. If I had done the attack from the Nerubian into the face, it would mean that the Molten Giant would come down for free and it would go Shadow Flame and clear this whole board. Now with just this Ancient Watcher going Shadow Flame, it does clear the whole board, but there... Actually, yeah, it doesn't matter, because if the Molten Giant had gone down, then he would have needed a Taunt activator for it. And at 6 mana he could have had also that much, so... The mistake would have been mine, and the situation would have been even worse because Namcor would have had the 8-8 on his side of the board ready to attack this turn. So it was a right call to not go with the 4-4. So, of course, the free Molten Giant is a no-brainer, but he needs to tap into a Taunt Giver or some sort of removal. Well, he values the heal bot enough. Doesn't believe it'll be lethal with it. The Big Game Hunter will, of course, get value from the Molten Giant. It's a decision right now if you want to go for the aggression of the Dr. Boom or if you want to go for the guaranteed removal of the Big Game Hunter. We're gonna see the BGH play with the Imp Gang boss. Interestingly enough, though, he's still at the critical point of almost lethal. So if Namcor is able to eke out until turn 9 so that he's very low and resets with Jaraxxus, or has another Shadow Flame with a minion like Twilight Drake, or the second Molten Giant with AoE, this could still turn around. But it's still quite unlikely. The Siphon buys one more turn, I believe. Siphon with Dark Bomb onto the Big Game Hunter, Siphon onto the Doomguard, and you're actually not that bad. The Handlock is looking pretty stable right now. Yup. With Mal'Ganis down on the board, it'll be 4, 7, 8 damage and still not lethal. With Dr. Boom, you're gonna life tap first. Yup. And wait for the next turn to become effective. And he's not taking the Molten Giant threat seriously. He only saw one Molten Giant getting played when it was for free, so he would have to top deck into that Molten Giant. This Big Game Hunter, pretty clutch right now, will be able to clear out this Dr. Boom. And playing out the 7-mana Mountain Giant over the Twilight Drake, I understand why he does this play, because of the fact that the 8/8 has a much higher impact onto the board. A much higher impact. So he's got 12 damage on the board. With Jaraxxus he's threatening 15. So if Weasel taps this turn and is not able to deal out lethal damage, it means he will actually die to Namcor's attack. So he should not tap. Definitely play this Mal'Ganis down onto the board. Oh, let's see. If the Boombot RNG is high enough, if it had been double 4, it would have been lethal with the existing minions here. With Mal'Ganis, it's 3, 7. It's still lethal, yes. That Boombot hitting the face was exactly what he needed. How much did it hit for, though? For 2. Would he have been 1 damage off lethal if it had not hit the face? I believe he would have been. Well, it is now 1-1 with the Warlock having secured a victory for Weasel. And the Warrior being taken out from Namcor's arsenal. Handlock versus Warrior, Handlock versus Paladin. Those are interesting matchups. I would call that Handlock versus Warrior depends a lot if it's a Control Warrior or if it's a Grim Patron Warrior. If it is indeed a Grim Patron Warrior, then I don't think it's... Yeah, it's not really viable for the Handlock in that case. If it's the mid-range Paladin, then Handlock will definitely be well off, because the burst potential of a Paladin is very low. But he decides to go with the Rogue. Try and surprise his opponent. And Rogue versus Paladin. This is an oil Rogue. It should be a pretty good matchup. The burst potential for the Rogue is very high. It depends on what the Paladin is running. If he's running double lay on hands or any other high heal impact mechanics. We'll wait and see. I believe the Consecration will be mulliganed out. The Muster and Aldor will be kept. Namcor's Hand, on the other hand, the Dr. Boom will be taken out and the Azure Drake will be taken out. Unless he already mulliganed, in which case it's not a bad hand. He didn't. So the boom will go away and the Drake will go away. The Deadly Poison SS7 agent will be held because of the coin. Yep, there we go. Double Deadly Poison, wow. And a Violet Teacher. Double Violet Teacher. This is really interesting. If Weasel goes for the Knife Juggler, then we are gonna see the comboed SS7 agent, but if he goes for the Silverhand Recruit, Namcor will probably just go for the Dagger Master removal. We might see a vanilla SS7 agent or the coined out Violet Teacher. A God of Pain, alright, so this would argue for Dagger Master into Deadly Poison or just a vanilla SS7 agent. Because if you go for the vanilla SS7 agent, then you basically give the opposing paladin a chance to clear it out first. And with this Deadly Poison play, you guarantee that the Acolyte of Pain gets no more than one card draw. And that's the decision that Namcor has done. I can get behind it. We will more than likely see the Violet Teacher come out on 4. The Knife Juggler hero power, although it would normally be pretty good value, is very, very risky because of the Wicked Knife. You would just lose your Knife Juggler immediately after it is done just a single juggle. So that's the reason why we might see a Muster for Battle. The Muster for Battle against the Rogue is also not so great because of the Fan of Knives potential. And of course you don't want to be playing Big Game Hunter without any targets, because even though it is just an odd Rogue, they might be playing a big Van Cleef at some point. And you don't waste your AoE. Just a hero power pass. It is more passive than the Muster for Battle, and I guess he wants to get the value from the Juggler Mustard combo for the turn number 5 because of his very, very clunky hand otherwise. This Muster for Battle would have been an okay play if it had not been for the lack of follow-up for Weasel.
Pay attention,
Namcor goes with the Violet Teacher. You could prep out, with the coin you could prep out the Sharp Sword Oil. And that would give you a lot of 1/1s and a big weapon, but we're not going to see that. He's got the second Violet Teacher as well. There's no rush to push those 1/1s out. And the potential for a Paladin to deal 4 damage to the Violet Teacher would require the weapon. Oh, or really, really lucky juggles. So if all these juggles hit, oh my lord. Wow. All 3 juggles hit this Violet Teacher. Well, at least he's got the Fan of Knives for now.
Sorry about
So, Violet Teacher, prep, Fan of Knives. Nope.
Justice demands retribution.
And coining out the SS7 agent. Yep, clearing out the 3/1. So he values the body of the SS7 agent more than the 1/1 spawn from the Violet Teacher. And he wants to hold on to the prep for now. He hasn't used a single sprint yet, so I guess that's the reason why he wants to hold on to the prep for more.
None.
Black Knight will not get targets, so it's okay to play him on turn 6 as just a vanilla 4/5, but this is one of those tech cards that if he does not get his battle cry off, it's really negative impact for you. At 6 mana you would expect much higher stats, so the Rogue has definitely got the advantage right now when it comes to tempo. Ah, 2 damage Fan of Knives. It won't matter too much. You can argue for the Deadly Poison removal onto the Black Knight as well. Just as 1 mana spell, but without the Violet Teacher you don't get the 1/1s and it's just a single charge instead of 2. So you're using the Deadly Poison as just 2 damage instead of 4. Given his current hand though, I don't think it's a mistake. Weasel has the second muster for battle.
I wonder.
Doesn't really have a target for the silence. You want to hold on to the item beak owl for now, just so you can use him on potential higher value minion like a Wallet Teacher or maybe even a Shredder. Just a single spell damage +1 is not worth it. But both those minions that got played this turn by Weasel are so low impact that I'm still saying that the Road has a very, very strong advantage in this current situation.
So many options.
If you look at it, at maximizing the board damage, then you should go for the Blood Mage, Thalnos, Fanonav's hero power, and just go face with your 7. Both these guys would die to the Fanonavs. You could get to draw the card from your deck. Oh, he does go for it, but he includes the prep as well. Well, if you go for the prep play, then I personally would have liked to have seen something like the Violet Teacher, but if you don't want to flood your board too much, then it's okay to put the Pilot Shredder down there. He respects the Consecration from Weasel. I guess that's the reason behind it. He doesn't want to use those 1/1s as just bait for the Consecration. These other minions will be able to take the beating much better. At 8 mana though, a double Consecration is a reality. It will clear the board, except for the spawned... Oh! Well, if you attack first into the 4/1, then you might get a minion that has 2 or less hit points. And you do, and the second Consecration clears the board. So in this case, it would have actually been better to play the Violet Teacher instead of that Shredder. The sap is, well, at the current state of the board, is completely useless. Going for Loatheb without any real threat of spells means you just want the biggest possible body out there. Attacking with the hero power means you're not thinking about using the Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil come next turn unless you want to redo your daggers. You could go for the Violet Teacher, dagger up 6 mana, 7 mana with the prep Tinker's Sharp Sword. And unfortunately for Namcor, the Peacekeeper knew his place, denying the potential from Loatheb's 5 attack to just becoming a puny Dude Slayer. Top deck Azure Drake. We get a Blade Flurry.
Pay attention.
And this is gonna be prep, more than likely. Actually, no. So he doesn't think that the Violet Teacher will get removed by Weasel. He is correct, but there is a risk. There's always a risk that the Paladin might have things like Equality, Wild Pyromancer, maybe even just a True Silver Champion. That combined with the minion is enough. Okay, so now we have the good target for the Owl. And the potential for those 1/1s was sort of wasted. Second Peacekeeper as well denies the Drake from being able to trade efficiently. And probably the Piloted Shredder.
Thank you.
Because you want to hold on to the Muster for battle for your Quartermaster combo. Oh. No respect for the Blade Flurry. If you play the Muster for battle, it just means you don't care even if the opposing player completely wipes your board. And your Quartermaster has become much less useful. Now there's the Van Cleef I told you about previously. If Namcor is really meta savvy, he might play Edwin only after 2 cards have been played to make him a 6/6 so he can't be BGH'd. But that is Prep, Tinker, Blade Flurry, which is 3 cards. And is it lethal? Not yet, it's 1-off lethal. And there's the Quartermaster with no value into it. You have to lay on hands this turn, and even that is not enough. because you can't play the big game hunter, the game is over. Namcor is now up 2-1. So only the handlock left, and it should be fairly easy to get a win in 2 matches with a handlock. Opting to go for the paladin.
With honor.
When you think about it, the knife juggler isn't really worthy of the coin, but the shielded minibot definitely is. If you don't want to leave a dead turn 1, you go coin, minibot, knife juggler, acolyte, shredder, and that's a very, very nice curve to hold. I see no downside to it being played because you're once again sort of turning the tables on the handlock. You're trying to do what your zoo accomplished previously already, which is flood the board in a steady state of minions, push him down to 15, and from 15 push him down to 0. It is possible, it's hard, but it is possible with a paladin. And the longer you let the handlock build his presence and his hand, the harder it will become for you to be able to wrestle control back for yourself. We are gonna see the mountain giant come down. I see no reason to dark bomb this Echo out of pain yet. Oh, actually goes for the Iron Beak Owl play. This means he will tap into a 3-mana mountain giant come next turn. He wants to deny the card draw from Weasel at all costs. Of course, the Acolyte will trade efficiently into the Owl, while the Minibot just goes face. There's no reason to coin out the heal bot, so the Shredder is really the only option here. 3-mana Mountain Giant, there we go. And Dark Bombing the Shredder, let's see what comes down from it. No Doomsayer, so that's a good thing for Weasel. The Big Game Hunter will be able to hunt down the Giants. And then he's got 7, 8, 10 damage on the board. And if he goes for the 6 damage he can do this turn, 10 plus 1, that's 11 on the board. He needs 3 damage from his hand. And that would be just true silver champion. So Namcor is once again at a really tough situation. But Weasel, can you see it that Weasel is still holding onto the coin? Had he been able to turn this shielded minibot into a turn 1 play, he would also be holding onto a knife juggler right now on this board. The situation would be exactly the same, but with a knife juggler on board. So holding onto the coin in this situation, slight mistake, might end up being actually more relevant than you'd think, but on the other hand, you can combine the knife juggler with something like muster for battle and things like that. Namcor, instead of relying on a single sludge belcher, which could be silenced via this owl right here, he wants to go for the heal path. He's right back down to 14 hit points, with the only difference being that the Shrinkmeister has been taken out, and instead of the Shrinkmeister we have a 5/5 Sylvanas, which means that there's actually 1 off lethal right now on board. 9, 10, 13 against 14. Is there any way to proc the Sylvanas this turn? No, there is not. You have the Sunfury Protector, but you don't have any way to play these guys really. You could go for a single 8/8 Molten Giant Taunt. That's it. If you go with the Sludge Belcher, then you can't do anything else. Except for the Sunfury Protector, which would do absolutely nothing. I don't see an out for Namcor right now. I don't really see. You're playing the Sunfury Protector with the Shadow Flame as just soft AoE, Well, it does mean that the situation is less bad for you in such a way that the damage potential from the opposing side of the board becomes less. But Weasel is now free to develop his board, and he's probably going to just play down the Tyrion and go for the face damage. You already saw one wasted Sun Fury Protector, so the odds of Namcor having a second Taunt Giver are small. Now he can't do a giant AoE board clear because of the fact that the Sylvanas would be able to steal other targets. If he plays just one Molten though and then goes for the Shadow Flame, that's fairly safe. You would still need to handle the Divine Shield from Tyrion. I don't think there's a way for Namcor to deal with the Divine Shield right now. Can't even sacrifice Mortal Coil or anything like that. Double 0 mana Molten Giant, Sludge Belcher. Maybe use the Shadow Flame on a single Molten Giant. First note, with the Shadow Flame you can't play the Belcher.
I wonder.
Second heal bot is definitely necessary right now. If you go for the Molten Giant play, then the Sylvanas will get amazing value. These are all really tough calls. And despite those plays, if you don't play the heal bot, you die. That's simply just the fact of it. With the heal bot, you'd have 15 left, and there's still 13 damage on the board. So you kind of have to take the risk from the Shadow Flame. Double Molten Giant. And bet that Weasel doesn't have a single damage. Unfortunately though, the top deck consecration means that yes, he will be able to push past, deal that required lethal, and we have a 2-2 tie. The next match will be the deciding match between Envy, Namcor, and B-Genius Weasel. It will be Handlock versus Warrior. Exciting times. The winner of this match goes to the grand final of the Hearthstone.fi Monday Night Community Tournament number 28. And the grand prize for the final is 50 euros and 10 World Championship points for BlizzCon. Both players from this match will already be guaranteed 1 point at least. So even the third, fourth places get 1 World Championship point. Double weapons and a Dread Corsair, not bad. I honestly think this is a pretty okay start. You'd have to keep only one of these though. I would consider maybe just the Death Spite, because Handlock doesn't really have any targets for the Fiery War Axe. You would mulligan this away. And on turn 4 you get the free Dread Corsair plus the Death Spite. Namcor's starting hand, double a Dark Bomb, not bad. Both these cards are very, very good against things like the Warsong Commander and the Grim Patron. Now, he's only holding on to the Fire War Axe. He doesn't believe that the 3/3 taunt is going to be significant.
Job's done.
I can't argue with that decision. Pretty much exactly the opposite mulligan of what I would have maybe considered viable as well. Commanding Shout and Grim Patron, one part of your 10 mana combination is already done. All you really need right now is the Warsong Commander and you're all set to go. Now Namcor is in a pretty good situation because even if Weasel is able to flood the board with patrons, the Handlock has got so many ways he can handle it. Starting from AoEs to single target removal. This turn 3 might just be a hero power pass once again into a No Machine Venerer on turn 4. Because of the simple fact that playing a Taskmaster without any targets or just a Fiery War Axe is such low impact that you don't really want to be revealing what you have in your hand. Maybe the Fiery War Axe is okay for 3 face damage. But yeah, even if you play it, you don't really... Yeah, there's no reason to go for the 3 damage, just holding on to it. Coining out the Drake, very smart. If the warrior player is holding on to the Execute and they want to kill off the Drake with it, that's much better for you than the big 8/8s. And you still have a follow-up Twilight Drake on the upcoming turn number 4. So there's no rush. Turn 5 is maybe the clunkiest of these all. It'll probably be just a hero power into either a Watcher or an Owl or maybe even a Dark Bomb. Weasel opts to go for the damage onto the Twilight Drake. Maybe as a preemptive measure. An activator for the later execute. Oh boy, there we go. Still playing the execute. I don't think it's very good right now, simply because of the fact that you know it's gonna be much higher value targets later on. You don't really think that a single Twilight Drake is gonna be worthy of this execute. If you go for the Frothing Berserker play, then you need to Cruel Taskmaster your Gnomish Inventor, or maybe even Taskmaster the Frothing. Consider the Commanding Shout. If you go with the Commanding Shout, you can use the Inventor plus the weapon to clear off the Twilight Drake, but that's all, and you don't want to be losing a part of your combo. Battle Rage does nothing unless you use the Commanding Shout, or want to just draw one card. This means that he's going for the Execute play. Turning the whole board, using the first Execute. And still left with a Cruel Taskmaster on the board. Luckily for Weasel, there are no big 8/8s coming up on this turn number 5. From Namcor, Loatheb is actually pretty perfect as a top deck because you don't have to make any concessions. You just pop the 5 mana minion, denies impossible spells. No executes on Loatheb, except if you want to use all of your mana crystals for it, and that's unlikely. Let's bite to the face more than likely. Oh, actually wants to go for the trade. I would have considered him going for the face damage because of the fact that you could have played the Frothing Berserker later, and with that cleared out the 5/5 with just this Death Rattle combination, and leave the 2/2 up. Leave the Handlock more responsible for the aggression. When he does it like this, yes, if he plays a 5 mana minion or a 5 hit point minion, it can be cleared out. So thinking about Thaurissan possibly is the reason why you would go for the attack into Loatheb this turn. You would normally want to play Thaurissan at all of the situations as a handlock on turn 6, but when you're facing Deathspite right now, it's a difficult call to make. The Ancient Watcher is much safer. If you lose the 4/5, it's not as big of a deal as losing the Outer Sun. Holding on to double Green Patron, I think you could actually play down one of them. Activate it with the Death Rattle from the Deathspite and clear out the Ancient Watcher. You could argue for the Battle Rage for 2 cards afterwards as well. We are gonna see it. 2 patrons and a Battle Rage for 2 cards. 2 mana for 2 cards and not bad. And a Whirlwind activator times 2. Wow. These Dark Bombs will know their place. Don't think a Shadow Flame onto a single pair of Grim Patrons is that valid of an option. You could go for just Sylvanas, take 6 damage to the face. Or just Thaurissan and make all your other cards much better, but these guys would trade into your Thaurissan. They would trade into your Sylvanas though as well, so if you're gonna lose something, it's better to lose Thaurissan than it is to lose the Death Rattle from Sylvanas. Yep, and Namcor agrees with me. He wants the 1 round of cheapening from his Emperor, and that is enough. Can't Grom yet, no activator. Can Commanding Shout, but still no Warsong Commander. If you go Frothing into Commanding Shout, you can actually get a ludicrous amount of buffs onto the Frothing Berserker And utilize it with the Cruel Taskmaster as well. You can get the Grim Patrons to stay alive, but then they're all just at 1 hit point, or at 4 hit points in the case of the Frothing. So it might not be worth it to quite activate it yet. Is he going for it? If he's going for it, he might even use 1 Whirlwind. Okay, Taskmastering your single Green Patron makes a lot of sense, because then you can just throw 1 of them into the Emperor, and using 1 of those Whirlwinds means you have a full board of Green Patrons. And then Hero Power and Frothing is a bit late if you're gonna play it, so you're not gonna play it. Yep. If the AoE becomes reality, you don't want to lose it. You're Frothing in the same mix-up. Sylvanas is 5.
I have no time for games.
And Shadow Flame, there we go. Because of the fact that there are no other minions you could use for it, especially effectively. Something like the Outer Beakal would have only dealt 2 damage, and that would have left a couple Grim Patrons alive. And this hand from Weasel is utter garbage right now. He could just throw in the Frothing. Just throw it in, let it be by itself. Maybe even a vanilla Grom? No, you don't want to use a Grom because of the fact that the Handlock could easily use a Siphon Soul on a Grom. The Frothing is expendable. You can just throw him out there, let him do his thing, maybe soak up a removal or 2, and then you've gotten a removal on a 3-mana minion and the situation is fine. Using his second Grim Patron already, I don't like it. It's risky. If you lose the win condition from the Grim Patrons, the situation is much more difficult to come back from. These double Dark Bombs will be able to handle both the Frothing and the Grim. And you can RMB call the second Grim Patron if you want. And what is the warrior left with then? He's left with a single 3/3 without any effects. And 3 cards in his hand versus your 9 cards in your hand. Well, if you play the Dark Bombs, of course it would just be 6 cards, but still. Card advantage is in your favor, board position is in your favor. Basically there's nothing that can go horribly wrong. Dark Bomb this, Dark Bomb that. Silence the middle 3/2 patron so you can trade with the item Beakal later. Oh. Shadow Flame instead of a second Dark Bomb. Why would you do that? I think that was a misplay because of the fact that you could have been left with just the 3/2 and your Owl on the board. While you would have been holding on to your Shadow Flame for a bigger board later on. And there's no reason for you to really hold on to the Dark Bomb, is there? What would it be effective at clearing? Maybe the Warsong Commander, but if you've got that Shadow Flame in your hand, you're gonna get value out of it later on. With these big Molten Giants, for example, or even the Sludge Belcher would have been better as a target.
What now?
Maybe it's the nerves, it's hard to tell. Commanding Shot just to draw cards, a bit of a desperation move. Thoughter Song only gives 3 mana more. I would say that the warrior player is currently pretty far behind. The Sludge Belcher is the safe bet. You could even tap, see what you get. Go Sludge Belcher, Dark Bomb maybe. But is the Grim Patron really that big of a threat to go with the second Dark Bomb? Now that you decided not to use it last turn, I would say it's not. Molten Giant, Sun Fury Protector, also not a bad play. But the downside there being that these guys will actually be able to trade with it unless you use this Dark Bomb.
Shields up.
And there we go. Had he done the previous turn correctly, then he actually would not have even needed to use that Dark Bomb. He could have just used the existing 2/1 Owl to trade into the other minions. Hit it by itself versus an 5/5. You can go for the YOLO Brawl. Hope that the opposing side of the board goes completely empty. Pop down the Dread Corsair Acolyte of Pain combo. It is a 1 in 3 chance for your Emperor to stay alive. Push Namcor down to 11 if you think that he doesn't have the second Molten Giant. And then at 11, hope for an activator for Grom. Is it lucky? It is lucky! Wow. 1 in 3 chance and he gets it. That weasel play, he weaseled his way into victory. Yep, and he's not afraid of the second Molten Giant. Will be freed thanks to the Emperor's reduction in cost. And you could have double 8/8s with Taunt. I don't think that's a bad play. With this Molten Giant into Sun Fury Protector. Yeah, of course you play the Mountain Giant first before the 0 mana cost minion. If you go for the tap play, then yes, you get a 6 mana Mountain Giant, but you do push yourself down to really precarious edge.
Shields up.
Maybe the double 8/8s will be enough. We'll wait and see. With the Fiery War Axe, you could utilize your Thaurissan for a clear on one of them. 4 damage from the Dread Corsair and Acolyte of Pain plus 4 from the Grom would mean a complete clear as well. That's exactly what you would want to see, but a little bit too late. Because you're all in on destroying these 2 taunts. You'll just be left with an Armor Smith and a 1 hit point Grom. So, is it worth it? 1 hit point Grom can be easily removed with even a Mortal Coil. Any sort of direct damage, even this 2/3 will be able to trade into Grom. So, but there's really no other play, because if you pass and do nothing, those 8/8s will just completely bypass you and wreck your face. So you're basically forced to do that overly aggressive play and hope that the Warlock doesn't have any responses.
Made to think.
I don't think there's anything he can draw into. The option here is not attacking with the Dread Corsair. Yep. Not attacking with the Dread Corsair means that he'll have to do the attack with the Molten Giant into the 3/3 by himself. Hellfire? Not yet, no. You want to handle the Armor Smith first somehow. If you, yeah, you can't use the Protector to go into the Armor Smith with the Hellfire, because she would be destroyed with it. Defender of Argus is an okay call, then the Sunfear Protector will be able to take out the Dread Corsair, and you can go for 9 damage to the face with the Molten Giant. You could go for the Jaraxxus as well. Jaraxxus could deal 3 to the Corsair, enable your Molten Giant and your Sunfury to go for face. Defender of Argus Sludge Belcher is the conservative way to play though. You're left holding 3 fairly significant taunts, and you're pushing the opposing player down to 5 hit points.
I wonder.
It is looking a lot like Namcor will be going to our finals. And that is the play. Now the consideration here is, do I use the buff from Defender onto this Sludge or onto this Molten Giant? And he goes for the Sludge.
Well played.
Yep, GG, well played. Honorable Subaru from Weasel there. And thus, Enemy Namcor from the Czech Republic will be going to our finals. And I will actually be in contact with our second semifinal pair. Get ready for the next matchup very soon on this here same channel. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back.